All right, hey there. Welcome to another episode of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. We are coming at you, bringing you some motivation, some wisdom, some encouragement to every single Kingdom Wife Mom Boss out there who needs it to sit in the space and receive it. Today, I am really excited to be meeting with Felicia Roberts, aka Fee. Right, you got my Fee, and she is going to be sharing her story today and just giving motivation and encouragement to the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss who has gone through a divorce and is looking for love again. And so today we are talking about love after divorce. And I'm so happy for her to be able to just come on and share with us. And at this moment, I'm going to have her introduce herself. Go ahead,
Yes,
Felicia.
yes, yes. I'm so glad to be here with you, Clemitra. You're such a sweet spirit. And, we've met in different spaces. And I'm so proud of what you're doing. I was sharing with you, just proud of the work that you're doing around wives and relationships and things that we experience as women. But anyway, I'm Coach Fee, and I help women with life transitions. So, really thinking about women navigating life's transitions and how they step boldly into their next chapter. And so when I talk about life's transitions, it could be, you have a career shift that's happened, or life after divorce, right? Or you've become an empty nester. Any of those kind of life shifts that take place, and how do we move through them with ease and confidence? Because quite frankly, your confidence can be shaken after going through any number of those things. So that's my work. That's what I do.
All right, where are you from?
I'm originally from Denver, Colorado, but I live in Hampton, Virginia now. And so my story,
Okay.
the hope of my story is that I relocated after getting remarried after divorce. And so I love to give women hope around that, like if you so choose. Because what I came to find out is not everybody wants to remarry, and that's okay too. You
Like
know,
one time is enough for
you
me.
know. Or you have people who say, I don't want to love someone else again. I don't want to have to go through another. And we should not be judgmental about that. That's okay. Enjoy the life that God has given you. That's the beauty.
Can I just say that I completely can understand that. You pour so much into your marriage, and if whenever someone marriage ends, I can imagine it's like I do not want to go through the process of having to open myself back up and to give myself so much to someone, and it's an uncertainty. How many, do you have kids?
I do. I have two adult children and three grand blessings. And
Aw.
so, yeah. So the fact that I share is that all the grandkids, we're all in the month of August. So my oldest grandson, he's August 2nd. The second granddaughter is August 3rd. I'm August 7th. And the youngest grandbaby is August 16th. So we're all in the month of August. So that's a busy month for us. But
Yeah, it is. I have two in the month of August. I think they're about 2 weeks apart. What's
oh,
going on
yes.
in August that we having all these kids?
I know, I know, I know. It's this December thing. It's somewhere around there in the winter months.
Right? So I have a question for you because as you were talking about transitioning. And so I wonder, how do you instruct your clients, or specifically for you, something you have experienced, to navigate faith in the face of transition?
Mm,
Because taking steps, oh my gosh, especially like if you're in a place of brokenness, or if you're in a place of feeling rejection, frustration, even from a job or whatever it is, and you're having to take a step and navigate the faith and trust God for your next step.
yeah.
Oh, I can imagine the navigating the faith journey on that, man.
Absolutely. Well, and this is why it's so important, because there are so many examples in the Bible about transitions that take place. If you think about, go back to Old Testament, Noah, right? And when God told them to build the ark, that was a transition for them, right? They were living, and God was like, "No, I need you to." And he like, "What? Do you say it's gonna rain? What?" Um, right? And so God will even. We have to be comfortable when God calls us to be uncomfortable. And so sometimes we can find ourselves holding on to places where we do need to let go. And make the change, make the transition. So it's really important as you ask that question. It's very good. It's really important to understand and be in tune with where you are in what I call your era. What era are you in, right? Where is God shifting you or moving you that you need to be in tune with him? Because then you can find yourself disappointed, discouraged, rather than looking forward to, okay, God, this door closed, but now where do you want me to go? Because it's all working out for our good. All of it.
That's a hard place to know that a door is closing and you got to move on to the next. And so taking that faith step, man, just that was a good point. Just really tuning into the word and knowing that this isn't the first time that someone had to take a step of faith and truly just trusting and believing in who God is. So yeah, that's beautiful. I'd imagine your job is quite rewarding as far as seeing people heal. Because transition steps often come with a aspect of having to heal from something that you went through in your last
Yes.
era or in your last space. So that is
Yes.
really, really good. And I think that takes a special anointing to be able
Hmm.
to do that. That is really, really amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So one of the main transitions that we wanted to talk about today was love after divorce.
Yes.
And how long were you married in your previous marriage?
Yeah. So I was married for 13 years, but we were together for 21 years.
Oh, girl, you sound like us.
A long time. A long time. And so when I'm helping women, move through this kind of shift, I'm like, girl, I know you. Trust me, I know you. Um, and yet, and I share this often, even though I knew that it was over and it was time to go, I knew that I was a wife. You were talking about like a paradigm. Like you have to leave the thing that you know that you are. And so um when that occurred, it was over. And I say this often, there were biblical reasons. I firmly believe that you must have a biblical reason to leave a marriage, and God gives us two biblical reasons. One, the mate decides they're leaving, they're out. Two, right, adultery. And I always say as well, God is not calling us to stay in a state of abuse. If there's abuse of any kind, you're not going to find that in the Bible, but you have to know God's principles to know that he's not calling you to be abused as his daughter in any shape, form, or fashion. So when you're moving through that space, I know for me, I knew that it was time to go for biblical reasons. God released me as well. Um, and I'll never forget him saying to me those three words, like, you are released, like you have done what I've asked you to do. Because a lot of times the marriage is over before it's over. And so women will stay and stay and stay trying to do all that they can do. What I knew for me is that I wanted to turn over every stone. I wanted to make sure that I had done all that God had called me to do so that when it was time to leave, I could do that with peace. I could do that with clarity. I could do that with confidence. Because let me tell you something, on the other side, people were like, because they didn't know, but they would say, well, now are you sure? Or what would Jesus do? All the things. And I was like, you know what? I don't need anybody's patty cake. I don't need anybody's I don't need your confirmation. Um, Me and the Lord have worked this out, and it is okay. And so when it was time to go, it was one of the hardest things that I had to do in my entire life. Absolutely.
Man, that is powerful. I'm going to tell you, for me, because I don't know if you've ever heard me share a year that was really hard in my life, and I wanted to walk away from the kingdom marriage. And God was like, you haven't even tried. And then, whoo, girl, that. cut me to my core because he was right. I stopped trying and I stopped trying because I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see. But if everybody just puts on pride and stops trying, how can the glory of God be gotten in the marriage, right? And so my mindset in that moment shifted from working as until like I was pleasing my husband to honoring God and working as I was working unto the Lord. And that was the only way that I got through that season. And whether God would have said, first of all, I think that's amazing that God gave you the confirmation to walk away because some people walk away and they're so unsure. Even if it was a hard transition, to have that confirmation is a peace that I'd imagine surpasses all understanding because God tells us, right? And so if God would have said that it was time for me to walk away, in that moment, if I would have just walked away from it, I would have done so like distraught, bitter, angry, frustrated. There would have been no peace in the
Yes.
situation. And so, one of the wives that got on here before was talking about the importance of being a wife who intercedes for her husband, but just being a praying wife, period, and being in tune with what it is that God is speaking for you in that season is so important because you can make mistakes and step away or do things that aren't necessarily in the will of God, and it's going to cost you more pain at the end of the situation. And so, what you just spoke was so powerful, and I absolutely love the confirmation that God has given you. And did you want to share what led to the divorce?
Yeah, there were we tried and tried and tried. Um but you can't what I used to say, you can't keep auditioning for something for a role that keeps getting given to someone else. Um, and so, you're trying and you're trying and you're doing all the things that you can do. And here's the thing. People will often say, well, okay, your spouse didn't physically leave, but they can emotionally, mentally, spiritually leave. And anytime you start introducing extra people, uh, you've left. You've abandoned the marriage. You've abandoned the covenant. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people can recover from that. And if you can, please do. If that's what God is calling you, please don't, again, follow God. Um, that has always been my heart's desire, which is why again I don't work with women or have not worked with women who are trying to decide about a divorce because it's not my marriage. That is up for you and God. Now you come on the other side, you've made the decision, and now to help you heal from that. That's the part the Lord gave me. But yeah, it was and that was for years. I mean, when I tell you endured, when I tell you like to the point of losing yourself, to the point of now harming my own self. I said, what else? And the Lord was like, I didn't show you. What else you need me to do? And it was like he flipped the switch on in the room. Like I was walking around in the dark. I talk about this in my book. I don't know if we get to, but it was like I was walking around in the dark. And it's like the Lord flipped the switch on in the room. And I was like, oh my God, I've been bumping my toes, stubbing my toes on all this furniture in here. Because I've been walking around in the dark of trying to hold on and keep it together and fight with it. And it was like, you can't fight with somebody who don't want to be fought for. What are you doing? What are you doing? And so to the detriment, um, and I remember him saying to me, you are released. Why? Because he knows the other person's heart and mind.
The word tells us that if we've even thought about it, if we've even thought about it, it was already done. It was done in our hearts and it was done in our minds. And Felicia, that is such a powerful testimony. Because how often do we lose ourselves in a marriage? And sometimes it's not to the depth of brokenness, but still it is. losing ourselves and losing our desires and one day waking up and realizing where did I go? Where did my desire, my like, my self-respect, where did my value go?
Out of
And I can
character.
only imagine. Huh?
Out of character. Now you're doing
Yeah.
stuff you would have do you understand what I'm saying? You're doing things you would have never thought to do because you're fighting and I'm like, no. And so yeah, so I went on my healing journey. And let me tell you, it was a breaking. It was an absolute, but I told God, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'll go however far you tell me to go so that I can be free and healed. And I did just that. And I mean, it did it uh I remember the Lord walking me through because here's the thing too. I honor the Lord, so we separated in June of that year. We didn't get divorced till actually December. I still wore my wedding rings. You want to know why, Clemitra? Because I honored God. And while people would say, girl, y'all ain't together, you can go ahead. No, I'm still married. And I remember God saying, you are still married until you're not married. Wear your rings. And so it was one of the hardest things. I said,
I was about to say that's another level of just you gotta look at that ring every day and know
knowing
that
his
this
name.
man, yes,
But
man, that's such a
my
powerful sword.
relationship with God, the covenant now became between me and him. And I needed to make sure that I honored him to the end.
Oh, Felicia, man,
I'm listen, listen. I know. So I know, wives. I know. You're not saying nothing to me. But I told God I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'll however you tell me to do it. God, I love you more. I love you more than my pain. I love you more than the process of this. I love you more than trying to. I loved it more, and so I was willing to do it. So that's just one example. I'll never forget him walking me through the Psalms every day, and because the portion of scripture that talks about man shall not live by bread alone, I believe it's in Matthew 4. But man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And so every day I would get up and read a psalm. It was like my life depended on it. You know how we could say that, but not until you in a detriment or like I don't know. I think it's different for everybody, but for me, when I'm talking about eat the word, like my mental depended on it. Because the other part of this story is 2 weeks before that, my mother passed away suddenly. So here I am in the middle of going through a divorce, and my mom was alive. And 2 weeks later, after I saw her on Mother's Day, she was gone. And I said, God, okay, okay. If you don't keep me, so there were days I had no idea what I was even grieving. I'm like, is it the loss of my mom? Is it the loss of death of the marriage? Like I don't even know. It was like I was a tangle, and I still had to lead. Still had to work. I still had to take care and be there for my children, even though they were adults. I still had to be there for them and make sure that they transitioned as healthily as they could as well. Ministry, thank God my leaders, at the time said, take your time, like, because we were very heavily involved in ministry. Um, the church was devastated. I mean, when I tell you, girl, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. But the Lord is faithful.
Yeah, he is. I'm gonna tell you, Felicia, your story is not incredibly unfamiliar with me. I think the difference is God told me that I had to stay and work out our situation.
Hmm?
And that was when Fortified Wife was birthed because
Jesus. Yes.
the warfare, but I don't know what the difference was in the situations as far as the hearts and the minds of our spouses. But even in the midst of that, 2022 was a year that we had a really, really rough year. And that same year, I found out that my mom had cancer. And so, and I got And I no, it was 2021 when I found out she had cancer. So I was pregnant all 2022, having marital issues all 2022. But I was also having to, I am one of those people who when I'm pregnant, I am sick. Like I am really, really
Oh,
sick. And
okay.
so I was constantly sick. I even had to go out on maternity leave early because I was having contractions early, but I was having to take my mom to her appointments as well and making sure that she was getting what she needed to get. She had surgery during that time and everything. And so in 2023, she was better. And then, of course, last year she passed away.
Oh,
And I feel like it's been in 2023, my grandmother passed away. And I'm just like, it's been hit after hit after hit. And you
yeah.
were saying about all of the stuff that you were going through. And I was just thinking, like, we know that God is with us, but
Yes.
sometimes it feels like, Lord, how much,
Yes.
how much those memes that talk about being God's strongest soldier, I'm like, baby, I feel you because God must think that I am just like a warrior on top of a warrior because I mean, some days it just feels like it's just so much.
Yep.
But I am grateful in those moments. And you just said it too, like God is with us and He
Yep.
tells you how to read His word and how to apply His word and how to take in His word. And His word is so healing in
Yep.
situations and in times of trouble. And I believe that there are a lot of wives out there who go through similar situations. And I call it in my first book, I call it a veil of darkness, right? The enemy
Mm,
comes up and he just puts a veil of darkness over you, and you're depressed
mm,
and you're down and you don't know how to get out of that situation. But I think it is so important to know for the King Wife Mom Boss who is struggling or going through so much that the word of God is healing
oh,
and that it can get you through so many situations.
yep.
Community is so important,
Yes.
right? It can help
Yes.
get you through so many situations. And so,
Yes.
Felicia, do you talk about all of these things in your book? Tell me a little bit about your book.
I do. I do. So my book is called You Can Again, Picking Up the Shattered Pieces After Divorce. This book was 8 years in the making. I self-published in 2022. So it's been out for a couple of years now, but it was 8 years in the making. And folks will come up, you're supposed to write a book, you're supposed to write a book, you're supposed to write a book. And I'm like, I don't see where's that supposed to happen? Um, but it wasn't until after that God said, put your pen to paper. So I hired a coach who helped me get the manuscript out and done. I asked my family because I knew that I was going to share some things that were, what folks could say is family business. But I knew God was saying, this is not that. This is to heal other women. Yes, I need you to tell the story. And so, again, I do it in a very respectful way because I always want to honor God first. And again, I'm not some bitter ex-wife. Matter of fact, I've seen my former husband. We have children and grandchildren. I mean, like, come on, we're we're mature in that. And so anyway, so the book is really written around helping women understand and giving them the tools to learn how to heal because we're not taught how to heal after divorce. The world will start, and if you're not careful about, you talk about community, you don't have the right community around you, folk will have you doing all kinds of stuff and you're not in any place mentally, spiritually, to do the things that folks would recommend, or like, girl, let's just do this, or go travel, or go, you know, keep busy. No, you need to sit with the Lord. And so that my favorite chapter is chapter 4, and it's called Cover Girl. And there were 12 masks that the Lord gave me that women wear as we walk through divorce. And so he gave me the mask, and then he gave me his word to show how to combat those masks that we wind up wearing: insecurity, false humility. So we fight, and if we're not careful, again, not having the right people around us and not taking time to heal with the Lord, we will find ourselves, which mask am I putting on today? Because I need to go. Okay, it's the ministry mask. Hey, girl, I'm high, blessed and highly favored. Um, you know, so what mask you put? No, I don't want a mask. This is what I'm going through. This is where I'm at, and I need to sit in it and let God be God. So,
That's powerful. And true, man. I feel like that is a blueprint for women altogether, right? When we're going through things in our home, even like you said, you do transitioning. In certain transitionings, we do put on masks. And I remember talking, like, I don't know what it is about women, but we feel like we have to have on this cape.
Yes,
And
yes.
we feel like we can't be vulnerable
Yep.
or we can't let people know that we're struggling. We can't let people know that we're suffering. And I think that there is a stigmatism, like an expectation for a woman to be able to handle everything that she's going on when inside, like she's just crumbling and she's calling for help. And so that's really, really good for, man, all women in that situation. You give some healing tips in that book, I'm assuming. And so, what are some healing tips that you would give to a woman in transition or a woman who is searching for love after she has healed? I think that is
Yes.
so important that that we specify that however long it takes to heal after she is healed and ready to seek her next chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first thing I'd say too is to bust the myth that time heals all wounds, because oftentimes women think if I just let it go by a year, if I just, um, you know, if I just get busy doing all the things, again, whether it's ministry, work, family, that everything will be okay. And so I say, bust that myth up from the beginning. Time does not heal wounds. It is only Jesus, the blood of Jesus, that can heal your wounds. And so when you get real with that reality, that's the first place to start, because we have that out there that time heals wounds. I think the other thing is to really get to understand yourself. Who are you in this new season, new place? Who has God called you to be? Because your life has been, what I described is, it's like your life was thrown up like puzzle pieces, and everything came on the table, and you're like, okay, now what is this picture I'm supposed to be putting together? Right? It's all the pieces to the puzzle. So understanding now, where am I and who am I beyond, because now you're redefined. You're no longer a wife. And if you were married to that title, now what you do? Okay. So letting God redefine, let him show you the truth of who you are. And that's what I said about the Psalms. You must get in the word of God. There is, for a kingdom woman, kingdom boss woman, there is no other way but for the word of God must be the sustainer. So God, like I said, walk me through those Psalms. It's where I begin to understand his unfailing love for me. Because when we talk about, am I ready for my next chapter? If I don't understand God's love for me, guess what? I'm gonna be back with his name just gonna be something else now, because he's gonna have a whole different name, because I don't even understand God's love for me, right? So taking a pause and really understanding who you are in Christ. Um, do not let time define your healing journey. I don't care if it takes 2 years. I don't care. For me, it was 6 years later. And I was okay with that, because I really just wanted to enjoy being with the Lord, enjoy the life that he gave me beyond the divorce, right? So, and then I said, get your finances in order, because that's a hit that you take. For some women, I didn't have that. Thank Jesus. If I had time to tell my testimony about the Lord, I bought a home. I mean, just all the doors that God opened. Um,
You have time.
yeah. So girl, I'd always wanted to buy a house. In all the years that we were together, we never bought a house together. Never. It just never could happen. I don't care. I don't care what we tried. It never happened. Going through the divorce, I was sitting in an apartment building to apply to get, to move into an apartment after we decided it was over, and we needed to move from the house that we were renting. And I was sitting in the apartment leasing office, and the Lord said, "Didn't you say that you wanted to buy a house?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "What are you doing here?" Okay. He said, "Yep, get up and leave now." I said to the lady, "Ma'am," she was getting ready to show me an apartment. I said, ma'am, I'm really sorry. I said, I'm sorry I made this appointment. I'm not going to move forward with this, but thank you for agreeing to meet with me today. I left. The reality is you're going through a divorce, things are shifting, your finances are shifting, credits, right? I said, okay, I got to get some stuff in order. Clemitra, I did not have, where are you in 90 days going to have down payment for a house? I ain't got it. Because none of this was planned. So the Lord sent me to strategic people in my family. Go to this person, they're going to give you this much. Go to this person, they're going to give you this much. Go to this person. I had no earnest money to put down. The Lord said, get you a realtor, go start looking. We went and looked at several houses. The house that the Lord said, this is your house. When I walked in, I knew it instantly. I ain't got no earnest money. My realtor said, we're going to write a letter to the homeowner. We're going to let them know your situation. Wrote the letter. I am a new divorcee. I don't, da, 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 da. There were 11 people looking at this house. The homeowner said, I'm going to give you 30 days to put down the earnest money, but I want you to have this house. I mean, just, we weren't divorced when I bought the house. So technically, he could have had claim to the house. Guess what? The Lord said, not so. We signed a quick deed claim. That meant that took his name off the house. I bought the house. He went on about his way. Do you understand? God just opened doors every step of the way. So I made my first home purchase at 43 years old. And it wasn't until I left that situation that things just started. I can't even tell you. That's one thing.
So, like, you got tons of testimonies because it sounds like God has truly just walked you through the entire process from start to finish. And I think that is very encouraging for someone who maybe doesn't believe the word and where God says that He will never leave us and He will never forsake us,
In
and
the
that He is
favor of
with
God.
us.
Absolutely. The favor, the supernatural favor of God. And I'm telling, that's why I said I just followed him. I didn't know where I was, and he would only give me enough light for the step that I was on. And I thank him for that because I would have been overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
if I would have known all the things that I was going to go through. I did go through a divorce care group, and I recommend that for ladies, depending on where you are in your healing, to go sit in a group of people and you're in pain. It's not that time. You need time just with you. It's not time to go sit in a group of people right now because they all just like you. And now you're even more discouraged. There's
The
a time.
blind leading the blind. I feel like a lot of that is spiritual too. And so and it's just coming with you. Like when you leave, that spirit is just coming with you of depression and sadness and despair.
It's a time for that, but it's not when you're fresh in the middle of it. And why are we running from the presence of God? He wants just you. He don't want you in your support group. He don't want you and your friends. He just, and girl, so there were nights. And I think about it today, just nights of just me and him showing me. I remember one night he told me, I need you to write down all the good things about the relationship and the marriage and all the bad things. Girl, I said, God, why would you ask me to do this? I don't want to recall any good things because then that means I'm going to have to stay. And then girl, I had a whole fit with the Lord. But this is when I just learned how to love him and how to draw close to him. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. But so I was like, I don't want to do it. That means I gotta stay. And then if I write down what's good, girl. And after I finished, I mean, of course, I had more on the negative cons than I had pros, which is what he was trying to show me. Write the vision down, make it plain. And then he said, now give that to me. Give all of it to me. so that I
Oh,
can
this book
help
sound
you.
real good. I'm just saying. This book sound real good. Look, you have to excuse me for continuing to go on mute. My infant is quite unruly. She could just, before we got on, she was screaming for an entire hour because we made her put her clothes back on. Potty training is not for the faint of heart. So I keep my mic on mute just in case she decides that she want to come visit me.
It's
But
okay.
man, I this book sounds absolutely amazing. I would definitely recommend that to anyone. But there are some wives that I imagine are angry at God and they
Yep.
have not gotten over the anger that they have with God, whether they've gone through a divorce or just a difficult situation in their life or in their transition. And one of the things that I've shared is that you can be angry at God, but not angry at God because He's God. Like, I'm gonna say I'm mad at God,
Yeah.
but you can be to a place where you just don't even know how to pray or how to talk to God because you can't understand what just happened.
Yeah.
And that was a place for me when my mom passed away because, like I said, like my mom was my person. And the
Wow.
testimony that I give to that, which I'll fully give to that one day, was just that I was on my way into a pit, and God was like, "No, come out of there." And my understanding of that was he could have let me go in the pit.
Yeah.
He could have let me be angry. He could have let me be bitter. He could have let me walk away. But his love
Yep.
was so pure and profound for me and for my situation. He gave me a couple of days and he was like, okay, I need you to come out of there.
Yep.
Like, and then he started bringing stuff to my memory of how he have prepared me for this moment. And in the moment of chaos and in the moment of frustration, I didn't see it. And real quick, I'll share this one part. My mom passed away in February of last year, and in December of the year before, I had just dropped my daughter off at daycare. It was when my mom first started having to go into the hospital, and I was on my way into work, and God said, I send my people down to do my work and to do my will, and then I call them back home. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying, God, but I do not want to hear that. And I put it on. I just put it in the back of my head until he brought it to me, and he was just telling me, he was giving me so much comfort of why it had to be the way that it was and why it was this way. And I was just like, man, God will pull you out of a pit if you just let him. So your testimony is so beautiful to me. And you were saying something, and I was like, I haven't experienced divorce, near divorce, haha, but I have not experienced divorce. And I can only imagine in the mind of someone, there are girls who grow up like planning their wedding. They don't even have anyone yet. They've just planned their wedding. They're expecting to be married. Like this is their destiny and this is what they want to do. And I can only imagine to go from saying that I'm a wife to saying that I'm an ex-wife. Yes.
Because especially if you never wanted that. Like most people do not get married to get divorced. So if you never wanted that, the stigma, friendships change. Okay, I thank God for my tribe of women who we do life together. So nothing come or go. But I will tell you, friendships change because now you're the single person. Now you've had these friendships that came through the marriage. So now you out here single. Now everybody boot up and you can't. You got to find a whole you can't you can't be hanging out with all your married friends anymore. You're not married. So that shift, I mean, it is a whole journey. And it's I wouldn't say it's necessarily stages per se, but you're gonna have to deal with work, for instance. When my last name changed,
Levels.
levels is what I absolutely because now I had to come and say to my team, um, my name is changed. I never forget it. I was having a staff meeting and I said, oh my God, how am I going to tell these people? And I'm still wearing the red ring. And I got to tell these people, don't call me. My last name is not, you know. So I just in a staff meeting, the Lord was like, you're just going to tell them. And I just said, hey, just so you know, my last name is changing from Bob to Bob. And so just you'll see this in emails going forward. And that was it. I didn't go explaining nothing. I didn't go, but all the
It ain't none
places
of that business.
it was none of you just need to know this part, right? But I thank God for even helping walking me through how to handle that, right? Because again, it's not just your personal life, right? Your business life, your ministry life. There's all these pieces that you're going to have to let God put back together again. So that was a whole thing. And I was like, oh my God. And they're like, why is she still wearing a ring and her name's changed? Nobody, it was odd because nobody questioned it. Nobody was like, oh, what, you know, it was, but I knew they were uncomfortable. Like, well, should I ask? Oh no, maybe don't ask. But the way I put it was very straightforward, and that's that. And so,
Oh yeah, definitely shut that off. You were saying something earlier about puzzle pieces, and I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, and I love to say this because it's so true. God is a puzzle master, and He will
mm,
give you a piece and another piece and another piece, and
yes,
you're not going to get the picture until you start putting those puzzle pieces in place to where they're supposed to go.
I love
And
that.
the healing process from anything is exactly the same. Like, God, I don't know why you want me to go through this.
Yep,
That is navigating the steps of faith, is taking those pieces that He hands you and putting them in place,
yep,
and just knowing that He sees the bigger picture. And that if you just walk in obedience to the healing or to the deliverance or to whatever it is that you're going through in that moment, that as God begins to reveal the picture, healing will begin to happen and understanding and wisdom will begin to happen to the situation and what it is that you're going through. But
good.
sometimes God will be like, can you let me see the front of the box? You know, the front of the box that got
Right,
the
right,
whole
right.
picture on it before you start handing me these pieces. I want to know, where is Felicia at now? What is Felicia doing? Felicia got remarried. How is marriage life? How is love life? How is ministry? How is your new location? How is your new community and tribe? Let me know what's going on.
Yes, yes, yes. So it has been awesome. So, like I said, 6 years. Um, I knew then that I was ready for my husband because I had done all the things that I had in my heart to do and walking through my journey. Oftentimes, here's another thing: women don't know when they're healed. So I see it, and then I would, as I work with clients, and that they was, I don't even know when I'm healed. Okay, well, sweet girl, you're healed. Number one, if somebody bring up the person's name and you don't want to spit nails, you can pretty much, take that as a level of healing. It does not have a hook in you. It does not have, there's no visceral response. You can take that as a place of healing. Are you still relishing in the past? You still everything. You still wondering and how you might be social media stalking or all these things. You need to make sure that these are areas that I don't need to go look at their page. I don't need to know what's going on with them, right? Count that as healing. So anyway, by the time that time, 6 years rolled around and I was intentional about my healing, purposeful about my healing journey. When my husband showed up, I was ready. And we met online in a Facebook, a Christian professional Facebook group. And I'll never forget him reaching out to me. And here's a funny thing. Girl, I am just hilarious. I crack myself up because when he reached out to me, he said, "Hello, woman of God." And here I go, woman of God. Well, he don't know nothing about it. He think he called me woman of God. Well, where he get that from? Why the Lord said, the Lord, I know he'd be like, this is my daughter. Oh, Father. Um, so anyway, he was very intentional. I was very clear. I did not have a list of 100 things. Okay, that's another thing. You got your list of 100 things, sis. Are you 100 of those things? Okay, that's the other thing. You got your list, but are you all of this? Okay,
Mhm.
you bringing this to the
Mhm.
table? While you asking for all these things, he got to be. And I remember the Lord gave me the top 7 things that he needed to have: his age. He gave me, of course, his relationship with him. I did not want to have to stand him up and prop him up before God. So really understanding those intentional first questions. Are you single, married? Because out here today, you can be separated and still counted as single, which is crazy. But it was
Facts.
his intention. It was his consistency. It was the life that he lived. And we were in different states, mind you, but we were very intentional about how we were in each other's lives. And so when I made my first visit out here to see him, he proposed. And what? What are we doing? What is going on? It was
Transition.
girl. It was a whole thing. And you know what? And every time I tried to like push him away, like I was like, oh no, I'm living life. I'm gonna be over here. I'm gonna be in Dallas this weekend, so I probably won't get to talk to you. And he'd be like, hello. I'm like, oh, he's back. Oh wait, no, no, no. In December, I'm going to Dubai. I'm gonna be going to Dubai in 10 days. So for 10 days. So I don't know, if I'll talk to you. Why was he calling me in Dubai?
If he
It was,
knew that you was just like avoiding him or running from him, or if that was what
I
he
don't
felt
think
like. Did
he
y'all ever have
cared.
that conversation?
And you know what? I have to ask him that because I think he cared. I think he knew he was looking. He believed that I was the one, and he just did what God told him to do. And so, every time I would think he would, I was like, oh, okay, well, surely he. It was 3 o'clock here in Virginia, in the morning, 3 o'clock in Dubai, and this man is calling to check on me. So it's oftentimes not what they say. Watch the life that they live. So I had an opportunity to do that. So when I came out here to visit, I looked for all the things. I was like, God, and always, here's another thing, had my hands open that if God wanted to stop it, remove it, take it at any time, he had permission. So I was not holding on like this is it. Oh, this is him. No, God, at any point, if you say no, it's no. And so I came
Aisha,
out
you
here.
went out there looking for red flags.
I,
Like you
I
was just
I sure did. I was like, because this is the part of me that needed to validate the healing. The levels of healing had happened, but now there's not until the mate comes, there's still more. And so can they handle that? Right? Because I was still like, this is too good to be true. This is too, how did I go from this to this?
God,
Exactly.
nothing but God.
I came out, I said, I need to go to you a minister at your church. Let me see. Let me see. We're going.
Oh,
We're going to
you
your church.
got to get all of it on that one trip. You got to
Oh,
see it and
right.
experience. That is amazing.
Listen, I met his pastor. I I was looking around the church like, is any of these women gonna be looking at me like I'm like who is this? Girl, I was checking it. Who are your friends? Yes, let's go have we invited for dinner to friend. Okay, because I need to hear what they go say about you. No less than people's other men speaking highly of him. This is a good man. This is a so um so anyway, he proposed. We married in September. So we met September of 2018, married in September 2019. So it was a year later. But you think about
Nice.
also at this stage of the game, where midlife, you know what you want, you know what you're gonna put up with and what you're not. There's it's different kind of conversations. And so we made a decision for me to move here. My children are grown, the grandkids are grown. But I said to him, babe, I need to be able to go home a couple times a year. And when I came out here and visited, I was like, I can live here. This is good. It's a lot of us out here. The beach is out here. Um, and so it just felt right, right. And then the Lord opened doors for us to buy a home here. I mean, so he just, again, every step of the way, opened the doors, and we walked through them together. So we serve now, we serve in ministry together. He loves God for himself. He's a praying man. He prays over me, he prays over our children, our grandchildren. Now, mind you, he doesn't have any biological children. So we had to look at, okay, well, how's that going to look for adult children? And I just let their relationship develop. You don't need to call him dad. He didn't raise you. But find a name that's respectful for you. You call him Mr. Roberts. If you call him, he's okay with that. But so it has just been. But I got all up in it because I was like, if I come out here and find any, I will say, nice to meet you. I hope you find what you're looking for, and I will go home and you stay there, and we're fine. No, I wasn't. Again, I would not have been at a loss because God had been faithful to me, and I was not letting anybody disturb that peace, that healing, the confidence that the Lord gave me to stand up again. He could handle my frailties and the areas that I still needed healing in.
Mm.
And so we had to walk through some of those places because I was still somewhat distrustful.
Oh
But
yeah.
you won't know that until you with it's fine when you by yourself. You're like, oh yeah. But until you're in a relationship and you're like, mm, yeah, he ain't gonna. But this man involved me in every area of his life. I didn't even live here, and we would. He said when we were dating, how about we have dinner together? And I was like, dinner? When are we gonna have dinner together? He said we're gonna do it on FaceTime. So, girl, we would cook our meal. He would cook his dinner. I would cook my dinner. We would come together on FaceTime, sit and watch look at the Sunday paper together, and you know,
Love that, Felicia. And as you were talking, all I heard was beauty for ashes. Oh,
yes,
beauty
yes,
for ashes. That is
yes.
so beautiful. And I'm just say a man that'll lay his hands on you is beautiful and sexy. And I don't mean lay hands on you in the bedroom. I mean a man that's going to pray for you and pray over you and lay hands on you to me is a very sexy characteristic. I'm just saying.
I couldn't, Carol. Wait a minute. So the third conversation we had, by the time I was ready to talk to him, because we text while I got the
Girl, you
things I
was dodging. I gotta hear this man's side of the story because I feel like you leaving out some of the dodges that you was doing.
every place I was like, oh no, I don't need to talk to you just yet. Just hold on. Let's stay on the text till I get all the answers I need to get. And by the time we had our third verbal conversation, he said, we forgot to do something. And I said, oh, well, what was that? And he said, we didn't pray. And I said, "Mm, here I go. Want to pray with him? No, I don't do that. The prayer is a very intimate space. I'm not praying." And the Lord said, well, is he a friend? And I said, well, yeah, he is. And he said, well, do you pray with friends? And I said, well, yeah, I do. And he said, well, pray with him. I said, God, every place I'm trying. And so and then again, the consistency. There was not a phone call. And to this day, which I sometimes get baffled when I hear married couples say they don't pray together. That's heartbreaking to me. That's very heartbreaking to me because my husband and I, this is where we can hear each other's heart, and sometimes you may not be able to say it, but you hear it in prayer. And so to this day, 6 years later, this man, we pray together. But it's rare if we miss
That's a
a day.
beautiful bond and connection to have. I think a lot of married couples don't really have that. Being honest, like with my husband, he said, when he was growing up, they didn't pray out loud, and I think that that was a barrier that kept him. And so it was something that he had to learn to do, like to pray out loud. Girl, in my house, every morning before we walked out the door, we would sit in the living room praying out loud, and so it was just the way that I grew up and the way that I was raised. But
Yeah.
for him, it was a learning process. And I think that that is a barrier to keep people from that level of intimacy. But it is such an amazing level of intimacy to be able to
Totally.
stand together and pray together. So,
Totally.
oh,
Yeah. And
your
I watch,
story is absolutely beautiful. It
girl.
is a story of healing. It is a story
Yes.
of overcoming. It is a story of triumph. It is a story of victory. It is a story of just really showing us who God is and what He's able to do,
Yeah.
and how He used your strength in your healing process. Healing, healing, healing. Girl, you said something. Wait, I'm not gonna graze over this. You said you were intentional about doing the work to heal, so when love came, you were ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is so important. I didn't want to look over that. That is such a key piece to anybody. I believe, of course, you probably tell your clients this all the time to anybody who's looking to get back into relationship is like healing. Even in friendships, if you're looking to be in more communities and friendships or even jobs, like the healing aspect is so important so that you can fully embrace what it is that God is bringing on. Um, Thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing with us. I want you
Yeah.
to tell us how we can get your book,
Mhm.
any kind of workshops or classes that you have coming up, how people can get in contact with you. Just pour it out, girl. How can we get to
Um,
you?
Thank you so much for letting me share. And so, yeah, so you can find me at www.IamFeliciaRoberts.com, my website. That's also where you can get a signed copy. I like to have people go there because I like to sign my books as I email them out. So they're personal. You get a personal copy from my website. I am Felicia Roberts. Wait, Felicia Roberts on Facebook. Not I am Felicia Roberts, but Felicia Roberts on Facebook. So you can find me there. And then I do have a workshop coming up March 20th where I'm going to be talking about rebuilding or reclaiming your power, how to build unshakable confidence after life's biggest transitions. So that's coming up March 20th, 7 p.m.
That
Uh,
sounds like that's gonna be a real good workshop,
oh,
girl.
I can't wait, girl. The Lord is just downloading. And I know, let me tell you
Yes.
something. You either are getting ready to go into a transition, you're in the middle of one, or you coming out of one. That's life. That's the cycle of life. So that workshop is coming up March 20th. So you can I'm popping it on my social media page. So if you find me there, and I'm on LinkedIn as well, Felicia Roberts. So just come and connect with me. I'm really looking to help women again in these life transitions and dealing with, and how do you do it healthily and do it God's way as well. The other thing I will share is the one last thing I want to say. Oh, I do have a Facebook group called She Steps Boldly, Loving Her Next Chapter. So come on in there because we are talking about, this very thing around supporting each other through life's transitions as well.
Oh, Felicia, you have such a beautiful spirit, such a
Oh,
kind heart,
thank
and such a
you.
powerful testimony. Thank you again for coming on and sharing with us. And I pray that this episode helps someone heal or even begin to take the steps to healing because divorce is so high in this country. And I'd imagine there are a
Unfortunately,
lot of women who are probably still sitting in bitterness and sitting in divorce that their marriage didn't work out the way that they thought it was going to work out in. But um, God's plan is perfect. Oh, God's plan is so
always.
perfect. And if he said step away or he said navigate a certain way in the marriage, then we have to believe him when
Go
he
with
says
him.
that his will for us and his plan for us is to prosper us and to give us hope and to give us a future. And so I'm so glad he gave you beauty for ashes concerning your love life. And again, thank you for sharing and all of the information you gave on how we can get in contact with you. So, all right, Teen Wife Mom Bosses, this is the end of our episode. Please reach out to Felicia if you need her, if you don't need her. I mean, life transitions happens to everybody. Like she said, you're in one, you're coming out of one, you're going into one. So reach out to Felicia, connect with Felicia, and just see what she has to pour out, right? All right, until we meet again on the next episode, thank you for joining us. Bye.